All right, everybody, welcome. We are going to have a very interesting presentation tonight. So I love seeing in the chat where everybody is from. Oh, hey, Kylie, all the way from Australia. Happy spring to you. All right, Michigan, Oregon, Georgia, Texas, New Jersey. Oh, Alexandria, Virginia. Hey, Laura. Sarasota, Indiana. All right. We have a great group of people here. So, and before I started the recording, I mentioned that there was over 120 people registered for this. I think I've touched on a nerve. I think this is a hotter topic than what I appreciated it was going to be. So let's get started. So let me just tell you a little bit about me. I know a lot of you know me, but for anybody who's watching the recording who may not, I have been a career prosecutor in the courtroom as well as being an educator for almost 30 years now. And a lot of my work has to deal with animals, with abused and neglected animals. I have been an animal shelter volunteer, fostering cats. I have fostered probably on average of, I'd say 175 cats and kittens. And, all my legal work is focused on animals and really how it impacts family violence, how it impacts people. And I really work internationally on this issue and travel to teach at conferences. So I'm the founder and CEO of Sheltering Animals and Families Together, which is a global nonprofit working with domestic violence shelters to create on-site pet housing. And I hope your community has a pet-friendly domestic violence shelter. If not, you can send them to, the acronym is spelled SAFETY, S-A-F-T. You can send them to safetyprogram.org and I will help them get started. But I'm a public speaker. I've won awards for my animal protection books. And for 12 years, I have had my energy wellness business. I am a Reiki master teacher, integrated energy therapy master instructor. I'm an advanced crystal master teacher, trained in the science. And I'm a Young Living brand partner. And I study frequency and how it impacts the body. And this is what I want to share in this presentation. I feel like I'm missing a slide. No, it's going to show up at some point. So if you are interested in learning more, I would first recommend that you hop into one of my crystal classes. My crystal healing for animals class is actually coming up this Saturday, and it's online, and unfortunately registration is closed. So it'll come back probably at the end of February, beginning of March next year. But I also talk frequency in my integrated energy therapy, my Reiki classes. Those are all in person here in Michigan. I also talk it in essential oils when I give my essential oil trainings. But where I give the real-time information of what is happening like right now is in my Sacred Shift community. And I know several of you who are here are in that community, and this is what we talk about. And when you really understand frequency and all the variations of it, you can start to get an idea if your animal is having issues. So I've also written a couple of books, The Oily Pet, The Oily Crystal. You can get that off of my website. And I talk frequency in both of those. So it'll give you some good information. So, okay, I am not diagnosing, treating, curing, or preventing any disease. Not happening. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking frequency and the mysteries that frequency can create for animals, especially if you have an animal with something mysterious going on. So what I'm going to talk about is not in lieu of veterinary care at all. It's actually for when veterinarians are stumped and they're like, I've tried everything, I don't know what's going on. Maybe if you're stumped for yourself, I mean, some of the information I'm going to share, you can transpose it to yourself. So that's where I'm coming at. So when it comes time for questions, remember, I'm not going to answer anything where it requires a diagnosis. That's not what I'm here to do. That's not what I'm able to do. That's not what I'm willing to do. What I want to do is empower you with this information so that you can start having some aha moments with the frequency. All right. So have you ever heard that everything is frequency? Everything. You are frequency. Your animal companion is frequency. This water I just drank is frequency. This air that is around us is frequency. Everything is frequency. So let me ask you this, and I'd love to see it in the chat. I'm going to do my best to monitor the chat, but sometimes it's a little difficult. Which feels better to you? Like right now, if you were to be standing in the middle of Grand Central Station in New York City during rush hour, or be at a spa, which one sounds better to you? Which one would feel better to you right now? Spa, spa, spa. Yeah, spa, spa, spa. Somebody's going to chime in and say Grand Central Station because I want to go on vacation. You're all saying spa, of course. Yeah, a spa feels better. What's the difference between a spa and Grand Central Station? It's frequency. That's it. That is really the only difference. The things that make up a spa are frequency. The things that make up Grand Central Station and all of the people there, it's just frequency. That's all it is. Now, let me ask you this. Which is prevalent for your animal companions, whether they're inside or outside? Chaos or calm? It's okay if you say chaos. If you have little kids, it's probably chaos. If you have grandbabies, it's probably chaos. I find very few homes have calm. Okay, a couple of you have commented calm. That's good. That's rare. That's rare. All right. So I want to explain this really quickly in relation to physics principles. I go into greater detail in my crystal classes about this to help understand how crystals work. But let me just kind of hit this fast and furious so that you can understand frequency. So there are three physics principles that I base a lot of my work on. The first is principle of entrainment. And this is where you have a higher amplitude energy. Higher does not mean better. Higher just means stronger, faster. So a higher amplitude energy will dominate a lower amplitude energy of the same frequency. And what happens is the higher one, the stronger one, is going to start pulling up the lower, but then it also comes down and they meet on middle ground. If you are familiar with tuning forks, you can have two tuning forks of the same note. You take one and you strike it really hard and it's loud. You take the other one, you strike it very softly, so it's quiet. The quiet will get louder and the louder will get quiet until they're the same. And that's the principle of entrainment. The principle of resonance is where you have that higher amplitude energy causing the lower amplitude energy to fully rise up. That higher does not budge at all. And the example that I like to give is, if you're familiar with Tony Robbins, the motivational speaker, he can get you excited and doing things and believing things with the sheer velocity of his personality, his voice, and his physical structure. He is a high amplitude energy, and he pulls everybody in the audience up to where they're like, yeah, I'm going to crush my goals. And then 2 days later, you're back home, not crushing your goals because you're no longer in that high amplitude energy. you've gone back to your normal base frequency. This also comes into play with like, you know, dogs at a dog park, where you may have a dog that's a little timid, and it's going to the dog park for the first time, and it's looking around, and then all of a sudden there's a golden retriever that's just running around, so happy, so joyful, so gleeful, comes over to the little nervous dog and is super friendly and is like, come on, come on, come on, chase me, chase me, chase me. And next thing you know, that little dog has come up to the energy of the golden retriever. It's principle of resonance. Now, the principle of interference is where you have two energies that come together, and they will either clash with the interference, or they will add together and create a higher third energy wave. So if they are of the same amplitude, they don't dominate each other, they come together. So like two dogs who are going to doggy daycare, and they're best friends at doggy daycare, and they come together and they see each other and they're like, oh my gosh, let's go play. Where's the ball? Where's the ball? Where's the ball? They add together, they create a higher energy, and all the dogs just go bananas, and everybody's off to the races and running around. That's where two frequencies come together in the principle of interference. Now, if they are not of a similar frequency, they collide and they clash. And this is where you may have two cats, and you're like, why don't they get along? Like, one cat looks at the other one, and the other one starts hissing and growling. It's like, what is going on? They're just two different frequencies. So they're literally colliding. So I have videos that I'm going to show in this presentation. Sometimes it takes just a couple of seconds for it to really load. But I should have said before I started that this is a brand new presentation that I put together. And I spoke on this topic on September 14th of 2023. So just a few weeks ago in Naples, Idaho, which is kind of high up in Idaho. And there was an integrative animal wellness conference there, and I was speaking on this topic. So you guys are seeing the first online version. All right, let me see if I can get this video. Oh, hold on. I got to get audio going. Hold, please. I need to click. There's a special button I have to click to share sound. All right. This one may not have sound. So in this video, as this laboratory is adding salt to an electrical pad and increasing the frequency, you see the patterns that the frequency is creating. I want you to keep this in mind as I go through this presentation, and remember that animals and us are 60 to 70% water. Water is much more fluid when it comes to frequency. So if this is happening to sand, what is happening to the water in body? So frequency absolutely can move matter. Absolutely can move matter. Okay. So speaking of water, let's talk about the frequency impact that happens on water. So like I said, the human and the animal body is mostly water, and water fluctuates. It changes. It's never the same. The body requires water because water acts like a battery for energy in our body. Okay, it's a battery because we're us and animals, we're an energy body. So according to the lifelong research of Dr. Emoto, who was the author of quite a few books on water, he was the author of The Hidden Messages of Water, and these are some of the slides from his research. He concluded that water is influenced by its surroundings. He proved that water's molecular structure changes based on what it's exposed to. So through magnetic resonance analysis technology and high-speed photographs, he was able to prove that water is positively influenced by uplifting words, by prayer, by positive emotions, by beautiful classical music. But simultaneously, water was also negatively influenced by hurtful or hateful words, negative and toxic emotions, and heavy metal music. Dr. Emoto also tested crystals in water and discovered that the water took on the molecular structure of the crystal. And this is something that I teach in my crystal classes, how to make crystal water. So through Dr. Emoto's work, we know that we can influence the water in our body through positive vibrational frequency tools, such as positive affirmations, being around positive people, using crystals, using essential oils, listening to uplifting, positive, even frequency music, being in a calming environment. But we can also do the reverse. We can live in chaos, anger, stress. Listen to things on our television that involve war, violence, death, and our animals take that on. His work actually went on to create the concept of structured water, which you can buy, structured water with positive frequencies that create natural hexagon structures in the water. And our body is built on the six-sided hexagon structure. You can find it in the cross-section of our DNA. Well, if you look on the screen, all the positively influenced water molecules formed as a six-sided hexagon. I mean, they look like beautiful snowflakes. So he was able to inform us, and even though he's passed away, his students and his workers continue his studies and his work, and they continue to tell us that high and low fluctuations of frequency can impact physical and behavior, the physical body and behavior. So let me show you this about water. They add a frequency to the water, and that's what it did. Isn't that amazing? You can just find the best scientific stuff on YouTube. It's fascinating. Just by changing the frequency. Okay, so just keep that in mind. We are mostly water, animals are mostly water. So, okay, let's talk about frequencies. In a lot of my classes, I recommend reading a book by Dr. Bruce Lipton called The Biology of Belief. If you have not read that book, if you do not have that book, I highly recommend you go find that book. He's a cellular biologist, and the information in his book will dramatically change how you think about the physical body. So in his work, Dr. Bruce Lipton, as a cellular biologist, has said that our DNA and the DNA of animals has antennas attached that are constantly surveilling the surroundings, and the DNA will reshape to frequencies that it encounters. So that can be a little scary, and that can be also very empowering. Be careful of what you're around. Be careful of what your animal companions are around. Because vibrational frequency impacts all of us. Everything is frequency. Now, some of it is just very neutral. You know, the frequency of your desk is not negatively or positively impacting you. It's just a frequency that makes it a desk. I get a little freaked out when I'm in an airplane because it's nothing but frequency as compressed matter. Try to tell that to my limbic brain. It gets a little nervous. But vibrational frequency that is around us or that we create impacts all of us, including our animal companions. HeartMath is an organization in California that has the Global Coherence Initiative. You can find it on their website at heartmath.org. And they are gathering scientific data on how the earth, plants, humans, and animals are connected to each other, how they respond to each other, and how they respond to frequencies in our world. Because frequency is a method of communication. You know, humans, we speak in words. Animals don't. I can tell you, my cat Stella gives a look to Dobby, and he will make a very wide berth around her, like, do not mess with Stella right in this moment. They communicate in frequency. That's what animals do. Animals are trying to communicate with us in frequency. Plants communicate in frequency. Everything in the universe communicates in frequency. And we as humans are actually a communication of a frequency. So I want to talk about some frequencies that can impact us and our animals either positively or negatively. Okay. Let's talk Schumann resonance. So those who have either been in my crystal classes or in my sacred shift group, you're like, oh yeah, we recognize that chart. So for those of you who this is new to, the Schumann resonance is basically the heartbeat of the earth. It is the Earth's frequency. So the earth experiences 6,000 lightning strikes per second to keep the poles, the energetic poles, like not the real North and South Pole, but the energetic poles. It's like think of a rod going through the earth. It's what keeps those poles and the energy field of the earth balanced. It's what keeps the earth in orbit so that we just don't go spinning off toward Neptune. So the earth's frequency historically as a base frequency has been 7.83 hertz. It's equivalent to what a healthy body is, 7.83 hertz. But the Earth's frequency has been dramatically changing since January of 2017. That's when I really started tracking it. And the Earth's frequency influences us and we influence it. It spikes, it crashes, it can stabilize, it can be on a roller coaster ride, and it can cause physical and behavioral disturbances. I'm actually gathering historical data where I track mass incidents to the Schumann resonance spikes, like the pandemic lockdown. So that's what you see on your screen. Most of us had a lockdown around March 16th to March 22nd. And I'll just give you a brief lesson on how to read this chart. Blue and green is just stable energy. It's all good. Okay, nothing weird going on. When you see white, white is a spike. It's an intense energy. So if it's wide, that means it's over a time span. When you see it start at the bottom and spike down, it should be reversed where it spikes up, because that is an increased frequency. But the way the charts come in, the spikes go down. So you'll see that frequency started spiking when the lockdowns were happening. And what really caught my attention and confirmed to me that we, as a human collective, influence the Earth's frequency. I mean, there's what, 7.5 billion of us living on this floating rock? Of course we influence her. Of course. Well, on April 5th and April 18th and 19th, in the healing world, there were these global healing meditations where energy workers and meditators and monks and spiritual people literally just prayed and sent energy to the planet in those early days of the pandemic. And we spiked the frequency. Absolutely spiked it. And that's when I knew we were onto something. So the frequencies have been spiking pretty consistently since. And I want you to think of our body as like a snow globe. Okay? Shake, shake, shake. You see the snow flying all in the air. you saw that video that when they changed the frequency, the water changed. So if the Earth's frequency is changing, of course the water in the body is changing. Of course. I mean, absolutely no doubt scientifically that the water in our body is vibrating differently. And, you know, there are scientists that are studying how the Schumann resonance impacts the body. There's loads of studies on PubMed about this. But HeartMath is probably doing the most widespread studying of how all of this impacts humans and animals, because they have 20 different sensors all over the planet that assess how we react to the Schumann resonance and how the Schumann resonance reacts to us. You can look at the live data on their website. It's on there. So I want, before I get to that, hold on, I need to go backwards. So there was an article it was last year, 2022, in the Journal of Complexity in Health Sciences. This is a medical journal, and it discussed the rise in frequency of the Schumann resonance as it relates to heart issues. And those with cardiovascular disease are more sensitive to Schumann resonance. So this is the sort of stuff that science is now starting to track, because there's no denying that the Earth's frequencies are changing. Now, let's talk about Earth movements, because there's more than just the frequency that is happening. You know, the Earth has her own snow globe. All right. She has earthquakes and volcanoes and tsunamis and storms, and has bombs dropped on her. And all of that creates a vibration that instinctively we know animals feel more than we do. Animals are far more in tune with the vibrations of the Earth, which is why we hear constantly stories of animals that know how to get to safety when the frequency of harm is coming. They can feel a tsunami, and the animals that can get to high ground. They can feel a tornado. They can feel a storm. I have friends who have dogs that are better weather predictors than the local weather station, because they just look at their dogs, and their dog's behavior tells them a storm is coming. You can see it in farm animals, the cows, the horses, the goats, the sheep. They act differently. And so the Earth is going through a lot of changes. I mean, right now she's having bombs dropped on her. And I want you to think of a bomb as going to a lake, and you take a pebble and you drop it in the water. What happens in the water? Ripple, 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 ripple. So there is no way that bombs or underground testing or earthquakes that are happening around the globe, there is no way that it does not impact you. And let me tell you about my Sammy. I miss this cat so much. He passed away in 2012. He is my lookalike cat. When I used to have auburn hair, he was my lookalike cat. And there came a time when I was living just outside of Washington, D.C., full-time legal work, in prosecution. And I would come home after a long day of travel. I did a lot of traveling, so I had a lot of coming home at midnight and having to wake up at 5 a.m. and do it all over again. And I was outrageously stressed out and exhausted and fatigued and depleted, and not the person that I am now. Believe me, I have my moments now, but I was a mess. I was a mess in my career. So I would come home, and within 30 seconds, sometimes within 10 seconds, Sammy would, bleh, he would just vomit right in front of me, which created more stress. And I would take him to the veterinarian, and they would look, and nothing was wrong with him. And we would, change his food, try something more gentle. Nothing worked. And finally, this was at the beginning of starting my energy healing training. one of my teachers said to me, as nice as he possibly could, he said, Allie, you're a hot mess. Look at the work that you do. You're working with the worst of humanity who harm animals and children. And you're out there helping prosecutors and law enforcement and child protection and animal protection workers on handling the worst of the worst cases. And you're on airplanes every week. You're living out of a suitcase. You're a bundle of nerves. You're stressed. And your cat, Sammy, is taking your energy and is expelling it the safest way he knows how. Because as hard as this is going to be to hear, our animal companions take on the brunt of our physical and emotional stress. Don't try to talk them out of it. You're not going to be able to do it. I actually go into this in my integrated energy therapy for pets class. I talk about this and what this really means. But the short story is they take it on. It's their mission. They are here to help you. So there was no talking Sammy out of it. So I had to change. But at the same time, I was also able to track to the Earth's movements. So he didn't do this all the time because I was always stressed. I mean, for 2 decades, I was stressed. He would have these episodes 5 to 6 weeks after a tsunami, volcano, or earthquake in Asia. Because when you think about that happening in Asia, it's all happening underground and it's vibrating underground. And it just took time to get to the Washington, D.C. area. Sammy basically had motion sickness. His world was literally shaking under him. I didn't help it with my stress, and blah, that's what happened. So he was very sensitive to the earth movement. I track it now. And, you know, every now and then on social media, if there is something really big happening, if there is a big tsunami or a big earthquake, I will go online and say, hey, mark your calendar. And depending on the location, you know, check it in a week or 6 weeks. And if your animals have an upset stomach, it could be this. So don't freak out, because his veterinarian wanted to do exploratory surgery. And I'm like, no, you're not going to cut him open for vomiting. That's not going to happen. So I'm glad I was able to figure it out, because once I figured it out, then the solution was easy. And I was just able to track the Earth's movement, create a more calming home. And I literally would stand on my porch and brush the energy off of me before I entered the house. And that did the trick. Okay, so they're very sensitive to these earth energies. This is actually a study from 2015 about moon cycles and solar cycles. So who has trouble sleeping during a full moon? I do. I do. I'm like wired. It's like, let's clean the house and paint my office and let's, you know, I have a hard time sleeping. Well, so do animals. We also get solar flares. The sun is constantly shooting solar flares in all directions. And we are actually getting ready to go into what's called a solar maximum. So the sun has 11-year cycles. And her latest cycle started in 2019 with a solar minimum, and 2024 to 2025 is the height of it. We've been blasted the last 2 years, though, with a lot of solar activity. And this can be felt. And remember, animals are more sensitive to these energies. So the moon cycles ebb and flow and can heighten or can calm energies. You know, I think everyone knows that with a full moon, there's higher crime rates, there's higher birth rates, there's sleepless nights. I mean, there's just a lot of things that happen. And with solar flares sending highly electrified plasma toward the earth, it can create imbalances and rise up anger. So I actually look at solar flares, the really big ones like the M class and the X class. And you can find this all like on the NASA website. There's scientific websites that track this. And whenever I see like a collective rising of energy, I go look at solar flares and the Schumann resonance, and it's like, aha, I know what's going on. People are just becoming unglued by what's happening. They need to ground themselves. They need to calm their butts down. That's what needs to happen. But people are not grounded. Animals are more grounded than people, but our companion animals can feel this, can absolutely feel this. So in this particular study, I mean, they're talking about the numerous studies showing the physiological rhythms and the global collective behavior that synchronize with solar and geomagnetic activity. And it can have an adverse effect on health and behavior. So this is not Allie gone crazy. This is Allie's gone science. All right. Many of you know Stella. Let me tell you what Stella does in the full moon. Well, I mean, we just had a full moon a couple days ago, and I know like clockwork what she's going to do. She does exactly what Sammy does. But she does it first thing in the morning, which is interesting because things are generally very calm all night. Like I'm very calm, I'm sleeping, nothing's happening. And as soon as the sun starts to rise during a full moon or a solar flare, it's like the rising of the sun is too much. And Stella's like, blah. She can't handle it. She can't handle it. So I use some essential oils with her, and I just don't freak out that there's anything medically wrong because the veterinarian has said there's nothing medically wrong. She's just highly sensitive to energy. So she responds to moon cycles and solar flares. So she's my little moon child. But animals can also react to man-made frequencies. So Wi-Fi, wars, poisonous chemicals in the air, in the soil, in the water. I mean, there's studies that are showing some conflicting information about Wi-Fi. And honestly, it depends on who's funding the study. I think you all know that. You have to look to who's funding the study. When a Wi-Fi provider is funding the study, they're not inclined to have it say something negative. Okay. So, but Wi-Fi is a frequency that is unseen. And all frequencies alter water, like that video. Alter the water in our body. Dr. Emoto proved that. And when the water is altered in the body, it alters the cells. So is this constant bombardment of Wi-Fi healthy? I know a lot of people who don't like the 5G technology. Well, there's now 10G. If you have Xfinity for cable, they just came out with 10G. So Wi-Fi does change the structure of water. It changes the structure of blood because both react quickly to radiation frequencies. And could this be why there is a rise in cancer, a rise in brain disorders, a rise in emotional illnesses, a rise in mental illnesses, a rise in violence? It's literally because the structure of their entire body is getting fried with something that it's not grounded enough to handle. These are the things I look at. So heart math, which I've mentioned, is looking at how humans and our emotions and the frequency impacts those around. So the energy coming out of our heart is the strongest, stronger than the brain. A lot of people think that the brain is the major processor in our body. We're like just a big walking computer. But the heart is the strongest and can impact others. If you've ever come across somebody who was really negative and complaining or angry, you probably felt it. Think of those principles, those physics principles. You either got dragged into their energy or you got repelled away from it. So our heart energy flows through our energy field. We have an energy field around us, so do animals. And it flows out several feet. And negative emotions create nervous system chaos that is felt by others. Absolutely documented that this is what happens. So this is why I often say, especially to myself, be careful about the energy you put out into the world. Be careful about the energy you take out into the world every day, because you're creating a domino effect. You are dropping that pebble in the lake and creating a ripple with your energy. So when we, as humans, invariably, as emotional creatures, we react to the problems and challenges in our lives, our thoughts, our feelings produce patterns in our electromagnetic field. And that's because thoughts create electrical charges and the feelings produce magnetic charges, the totality of which is the energy you broadcast on a moment-to-moment basis. Ooh. I just love it when science tells us what we already know. So our erratic and unhealed emotional responses can impact our pets. Hence, People's Exhibit A, right here, Allie, as a stressed out traveling prosecutor, coming home at midnight from God knows where, being in who knows what airport, and being stressed and coming home with all of that erratic, stressed emotional energy, and poor Sammy went, bleh. There you go. Validated in the work that HeartMath is doing. And so I want to ask you this. And I'm not going to ask you this to call you out. I don't want to make anybody feel bad. If you are triggered, that's actually an emotion that is ready to be healed and released. But I really want you to think about this. Are you always busy? Is the B word frequently coming out of your mouth? Are you always busy and on the go? Are you walking your dog while on your cell phone? When I said that to the audience at the Idaho conference, the looks on people's faces, I'm like, I'm not judging. You understand what frequency is now. Are you walking your dog while you're talking on your phone, you're playing on your phone, or you even have your phone on you? Because your dog is out there trying to ground with the frequency of the earth and be healthy, which I'll talk about. Or are you in a bad mood around your pet? I have moments where I get really angry in some of the work that I do because sometimes people just peeve me beyond belief in what they do to people and animals. And I have zero tolerance for violence, for bullying, for aggression. And it makes me have an outburst. And if there's a cat here in my office, that cat goes running. So our bad mood around our pets are going to repel them. There was even a 2018 study that found that horses remember your bad mood and will hold it against you later, showing that they have a memory for emotion. You have horses, you're probably like, yep. Science is validating that. So I want you to think of this. For your animal companions, whether they're in your home or outside of your home, is there chaos? Are there kids that are bothering them? You know, kids need to learn how to interact with animals. Are they bothering them? Are they screaming? Are they yelling? Are they running around? Are there loud noises? You know, is that preventing a cat from using the litter box, which is one of the key features of why cats don't use a litter box, because there's too much chaos and they need quiet at the litter box. Has an animal come from an environment where there was abuse, verbal or physical, where there was neglect, where there was abandonment, where there was trauma? Maybe they lost their home and, you know, ended up at a lovely shelter and ended up getting rehomed. All of that is a frequency that can be trauma. Even hospitalization can be trauma. Heck, my cat's going to the veterinary clinic just for a checkup. You would think they're just being tortured in my car, which is why I have a lot of essential oils and crystals in the car for them. So Let me tell you about Rudy. A lot of you know Rudy. I am stunned that he's not in here on the back of my chair. Clearly, my chief feline officer is sleeping on the job. But I want to share this story with you, and I want to share that photo with you. This was a very hard time for me and for Rudy. It was the last few days of April 2018 into the early days of May 2018. So April 28th of 2018, Rudy, in the middle of the night, experienced a bladder blockage. He had stones and he was screaming in pain. And had I not got him to the vet within an hour, he would have been dead. Screaming in pain. He was in so much pain, he was scaring himself. And he was hiding underneath my mattress, not under the mattress, like up in the mattress. And I know it was traumatic, but I literally had to flip my mattress, a queen size mattress, which was not easy to do. I had to flip it to get him out. He's in pain, but I had to do it to get him. So trauma number one, or that was trauma number two. Blockage, trauma number one. Flipping the mattress, trauma number two. Throw him in the carrier, drive him like a crazy woman, trauma number three. Take him to the emergency room. They take him away from me into ICU. Trauma number four. I was not allowed to see him for 24 hours. By the time I went back to see him, they had a sign on his cage that said, biter. And I looked at it and I'm like, is that from the previous animal that was in here? And they said, no, your cat is vicious. I'm sorry, my cat is a vicious Casanova. He is very inappropriate with everybody he meets. He will kiss you. He will not leave you alone. He's not a biter. He was traumatized. And the frequency in that ICU, it was a university veterinary hospital, but that ICU unit, there was trauma and death and running around and whistles and sirens going off. Trauma number five. So I'm in the cage cuddling with him. He's clearly in pain. They ended up doing surgery on him. 2 days after I brought him home, my 20-year-old cat, Lucy, passed away. She was just done. She was 20. I was heartbroken. I'm having to nurse Rudy back to health. He knew Lucy was gone. He didn't get to see her because he had to be isolated. And about 2 weeks after all of that, Rudy was just a shell of a cat. There was no joy, no playfulness. I mean, he was just a goofy cat before this. He was a shell of a cat. I was kind of a shell of a person from all of that trauma. So I put me and Rudy through the feelings, the Young Living Feelings Kit protocol. And that's us smelling the oils together. And it started to bring him back. So we had to do that a lot. So my emotions of being worried about him, freaked out about what was going on, not being able to be with him in the vet clinic, all of the veterinarians and the staff and the other animals, their emotions, their trauma, everything that's going on there, plus the surgery, then coming home. Lucy's gone. I'm devastated. It really impacted him. So it took months for us to recover. And that's what the frequency of humans and emotions can do to animals. Okay. So he's fine now. For those of you who know him, you know he's fine. Now I want to show you this because it shows the energy field that us and animals have and how animals react to us, how we react to animals. And this was created by Dr. Valerie Hunt, who passed away a few years ago, but she was a professor at UCLA and she spent her career studying the energy field to validate it scientifically. So this is fascinating. That is the energy field of a dog. And when the dog comes into contact with his person, you notice the color of the energy field changes. And if you know anything about the chakra colors, it just got very high level, very high level. So this is the positive part of humans on animals, but there can also be negative when we have our own shock and trauma. So before I get into some solutions, and I have not been looking at the chat because I'm in the zone right now. I'll look at it when we get to the end. We are experiencing more frequency influences than ever before. Okay. I am finding more animals are experiencing these mysterious physical and behavioral issues. After getting evaluated by a veterinarian, there are too many times that there is no explanation. And with behavior, it's getting trickier to resolve. I know behaviorists, I know dog trainers, and they're struggling with some animals. Every dog I have met in the last 10 years has anxiety. Maybe yours doesn't, but every dog I have met through my legal and healing work has had anxiety. That's not normal. Dogs are very happy-go-lucky. They are the ones that are out on the earth, putting their paws on the ground. They should be the least anxious. They have high levels of anxiety because they're absorbing all of these frequencies. In all the work that I've done, I feel that the water in our bodies is vibrating differently. It's vibrating faster. It's vibrating inconsistently, like vibrating fast then slow, fast then slow. And I believe this is one reason why we have so many mystery issues. I feel that the frequencies could be impacting the nervous system, you know, cellular communications, emotional and mental balance. I mean, all of this stuff. Too many people and pets are just feeling off. You know, these stressors, the nervous system stressors, the anxiety is not normal, but we now live in a world that is being artificially influenced with frequencies. And over time, it is influencing and will continue to influence how the body responds, how the body regulates, how the body repairs, and how it regenerates. At some point, the body will adjust to it. We are in the initial phases where the body's like, I don't know what to do. So we have to help. So since 2008, this is what I've been studying and working on, all of these unexplained issues. And it's taken me a while to track it down to frequencies and working with frequency tools. So in my classes, I teach that layering beneficial energies is how we can ground the body while raising the frequency of the body to go with the earth, raising her frequency. So it's not just one thing that we should be doing. We need to do several things. We need to layer these energies. And if we take care of ourselves first, that in turn will take care of our animals. And that was the lesson that Sammy taught me. When I took care of myself, he was fine. He never had an issue again. So, all right, I want to talk about crystals for a moment. So I've heard from a couple of people that they're concerned about crystals because of their religious beliefs, but I come at this from a different direction. I mean, even though crystals are in the Bible and they come from the earth and they have an energy frequency, just like plants, just like essential oils, just like the earth has her energy, just like humans have energy, just like animals have energy, we all are energy. Crystals are energy. And if you believe that everything is God created, or if you take a more scientific viewpoint that everything is made of vibrational frequency, crystals, like plants, like essential oils, fall together so that you can understand it. So I just want to very briefly touch on just a little more science than the spiritual. And I started off with the physics principles because these are another tool that you can work with based on frequency. Crystals absolutely have a frequency to them. And how crystals work in the energy field and at the cellular level is they work with these physics principles. Because when I was talking about the higher amplitude energy, that's crystals. Animals and humans suffer from high levels of entropy. Crystals do not. These are millions and billions of years old. It is the dominant energy. And so they change us at a structural level, at a cellular level. Okay. So those physics principles, you know, where there's a higher vibration and a lower vibration. The crystal is the higher vibration that pulls us up, and we synchronize with it. So crystals are 100% minerals, and minerals are required for health. Animals and humans cannot live without minerals in the body. Crystals can ground energy, they can transmute the negative energies like Wi-Fi, and they can raise energy. Okay, and I'm going to actually show you a video of how they transmute Wi-Fi. And, just like, I know many of you use essential oils, just like when an essential oil comes into the energy field of the body, the DNA in the cells begin to vibrate, synchronize, and balance. Same thing with crystals. So animals love crystals, and they don't need a double-blind peer-reviewed study to tell them that they have a frequency that feels good. Whenever I bring crystals home from my crystal store, my cats lay all over them. If I open up the room in my home that has my crystal store in it, the cats are at the door and they make a beeline in there. I mean, I have 500 pounds of crystals in my house. You think that'd be enough, but they make a beeline to go in there. They know, they feel it. And this is why animals have been some of my best teachers, because they don't need a double-blind peer-reviewed study. Humans are wired that way. So I mentioned that crystals can transmute Wi-Fi. So let me show you this. I actually took this video with an EMF detector. And it's in front of this computer that I'm on right now. And it's going off the charts. I take black tourmaline and I put it in front, and it absolutely lowers the EMFs. This is why I like teaching about crystals, because I can go all woo-woo on you, but there is some pretty hardcore science behind all of it. So that was a shungite crystal. That was the second one. And then this third one is called Numite. Iron and aluminum based crystals transmute Wi-Fi. So I literally cannot keep big chunks of black tourmaline in my store, because once everybody learns this, they're filling their house with black tourmaline. Okay. I mean, I have a chunk on my Wi-Fi router. I have them between me and my computer. I have it in front of my smart TV. I have patches on the back of my cell phone. I have a patch here on my computer. It transmutes the Wi-Fi energy, which is beneficial for me and beneficial for my cats. Okay. So when I talk about crystals, this is the level that I'm coming from to help you understand. All right. I also want to show you this crystal session I had with a horse that was very anxious. Okay. Very anxious. And I want to show how this horse responded. And if you are a horse person, you will recognize the behavior. Okay, so clear quartz. So I'm using a clear quartz. I'm letting the horse know what I'm doing. It's not a snack. It's not a snack, you silly. Horses like to eat the crystals.
What if it tastes good?
It's not a snack. So I like to brush animals with crystals. If it's not too pointed, you can do straight on the body, just like a brush. Start looking for the twitching in the body. She's releasing energy and stress. Did you see that?
I think that was from the stuff, I'm sure.
Because there were flies back here.
Oh, was there? Okay.
Yeah.
But she usually doesn't shake like that, though.
She doesn't?
No.
That was unusual?
Never.
Well, this is clear quartz. This is quite powerful.
Okay.
So the handler said that was an unusual reaction.
All right.
Or you can go off the body. So I'm showing how I even take the crystals off the body,
Big sigh.
and she's still twitching. This is how animals release. They're very energetic. Think about when you have a twitch. That's energy releasing. Right down the spine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get too close because it is too twitchy for them. So I'm about anywhere from 3, 4, 5 inches off the body. Now, she had also had some digestive issues because of her anxiety and stress. It was taking a toll on her physically. So that was clear quartz. Okay, nice. All right, let's try amethyst. This is an amethyst cluster. So this is an amethyst. It's more grounding and calming. No, the quartz is very powerful.
Gotcha.
She's like, it tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see how she does. I'm going to go straight on the body.
Okay.
So she was much twitchier with the clear quartz because that really moves energy through the body, whereas this crystal is more grounding and calming, and you can see it. I mean, she's starting to drop
Palm size. It can be
because
bigger.
she's getting calm.
All right.
And then the last crystal I'm going to use is a selenite.
And this is not a carrot.
Yeah, it looks like a carrot.
Selenite stick.
It looks like a carrot, but it's not, honey. Don't be fooled.
She's like, okay, yeah, it's not a carrot. So this one I am going to take off the body because even though it's polished into a wand, I don't want any little shards.
So these are the sort of things I teach in the
accidentally.
crystal healing for animals
So what will this
class.
This selenite is very soothing,
do? Okay.
but it is a high vibrational crystal, so she could really twitch.
Okay.
We'll see.
I want you to watch how relaxed she gets.
Her eyes are almost closed. Very.
So yeah, this is just a very, very calming, very soothing. With a wand, I like getting under the belly
Okay.
because I'm not too invasive,
Mhm.
and there's been some twitches. But you can just comb the whole body.
Okay.
And I'm showing this because I want you to see what frequency is as an antidote, because I'm going to
Nice.
see that. See her? She dropped. She got really relaxed, and that's what frequency is like. So let me give you some of my antidotes to frequency and what I do. So the human animal bond is important as an antidote to these frequencies, and this is what heart math is studying about how our heart energy is healing to those around us. So working on your emotional body and realizing that your animals are picking up everything. It's why they come to you when you feel sick or sad. They're taking the burden from you. We're never going to be 100% perfect. But as long as we're working on ourselves, we're going to be a little bit better each day. So just recognize that they're picking up everything. And, you know, I sadly have too many examples of somebody who has a physical disorder and the animal takes it on for them, especially cancer. So you can't talk them out of it. It's their sole purpose. It's what they do. So the best thing you can do for the human-animal bond and the health of your animal companion is to do your best to take care of yourself. The second thing is to calm and ground the nervous frequencies around you. Number one, we all need to slow down. And I say that to myself all the time. Allie, slow down, because I am go, go, go all the time. Pets will sit with us when we are still and calm. That's why they like to sleep with us. That's when we're at our best. They get anxious when we're running around like a hamster on a wheel. Be aware of your energy and what you bring home, and do that sweeping your energy field where you just take your hands and you literally pretend like you're sweeping dirt off yourself and just sweep it down off the body. It actually works. And if there's chaos in their living environments, it's going to keep their cortisol rates high, and it's not going to allow the body to relax and repair. So, you know, and chaos can be Wi-Fi. It can be people. It can be a variety of things. This is why I like the black tourmaline crystal. I put it in the 4 corners on the first floor of my house. I ground my house with that energy, and I have it in my office. I have it in my bedroom. I have it all over the place. I put it under their pet beds. So this is how you're calming and grounding the frequencies around them. But you also need to raise and elevate their frequencies to keep up with the Schumann resonance changing energies. This is where I teach people about making clear quartz water. That's easy. That's simple. Nobody can ever screw it up. It just has to be clear quartz, nothing. Don't do anything else unless you're trained in how to do this. But that's an easy thing to do. But having quartz-based crystals in your home, like clear quartz and rose quartz, amethyst and citrine, literally changes the energy in your home. Absolutely changes the energy. People who walk into my home feel it before they even know that there's really crystals here. They feel the energy change. Just make sure you don't put quartz-based crystals near technology, because quartz amplifies and you don't want to amplify your Wi-Fi router. But you can also change the energy in your pet's surroundings by, you know, doing a lot of things. Like if they are in a shelter, if they have to go into doggy daycare or boarding or in clinics, you can do a variety of different things to really help them feel better. So here, I want to go back for a second before I get to that. You can play sound frequency music to help them. Actually, I think that's coming up on another slide, so hold on. Let me talk about this before I go to that. So I talk about other locations. So I have done a lot of work in animal shelters and with rescue groups and pet orphanages. And this is a cat that, shockingly, after I met her in these photos, about 14 months later, she ended up in foster care at my house as a burn victim. And I nursed her back to health and adopted her to a friend. But I was there just doing energy healing. And she was very sad, very depressed. And by the time I was done, you can see it on her face. She's better. It was just frequency. Because shelter environments are hard. They're hard on animals. They need that human animal bond. And just me touching her and calming down and just being in the moment and holding space for her literally brought her around. And then it just shocked me when 14 months later, under a different name, she ends up in foster care at my house. So she is my godchild. I adore this cat. She's wonderful. She's totally healed. She's wonderful. And then I want to tell you about Bahama Bessie. So Bahama Bessie was evacuated along with 130 dogs when there was a hurricane getting ready to basically decimate the Bahamas. So the Humane Society of Greater Bahama evacuated all their shelter animals and all the animals that they could round up. And 130 of them, dogs, came to Michigan. And about 15 of them came to my local Humane Society. Bahama Bessie, for 4 days, could not keep anything down. Things were coming out of both ends. She shook nonstop. She could not lay down because she was shaking in trauma, and she couldn't sleep. And after 4 days of this, the veterinarians and the behaviorists at the shelter, they said, we're going to lose her. We don't know what's wrong with her. And, you know, I always tell them, do not call me in at the last minute. Like, call me in first. Like, I may not have the answer, but I can at least try. Well, what I did worked within 20 minutes. So Bessie came in, looking all frantic, shaking. She clung to me and was just shaking. And I was able to get some calming oils on her back. I got some digestive oils on her stomach to help with everything coming out of both ends. And within a couple of minutes, I got her to lay down. I'm offering energy healing to her. She's also laying on crystals. I'm using the essential oils. So you see how I'm layering energy to help her, because this was a shock and trauma that she went through, because she could feel the hurricane coming. Next thing she knows, this is a street dog in the Bahamas. Next thing she knows, she's in a cage being loaded into cargo in an airplane going from Bahamas to Miami to Detroit, and then a 2-hour drive from Detroit to where she landed. Trauma. So I was able to get her to lay down, and within 20 minutes, that final photo, she passed out. Even the behaviorist said, she looks dead. And I'm like, she's not dead. She's exhausted. Let her sleep here in the behavior room. I said, just let her sleep. And somebody stayed with her through the night, and they said the next morning she was fine. Spark in her eyes. She was able to eat. She kept it down. All the diarrhea was gone. She got adopted within a couple of days. That dog had a horrible outcome. That dog wasn't going to live. And it's because of the negative frequencies that influenced her into that trauma state, but the positive frequencies that brought her back. All right. Some of you may know my Dobby. I want to show you 2 videos of him in shelter. We're getting ready to celebrate our 4th adoption anniversary together. I want you to see the difference.
This is Dino. He's 12 years old and he's very scared. So I'm going to take a little bit of Valor. I'm just going to put a little bit on his blanket. Oh, I can smell it. Honey. Oh, his nose is moving. He can smell it. Hi, Dino. Look at his nose go. Honey, you're okay. You're okay.
So I did this consistently with him for about 10 days.
Dino is 12.
And this is what
He's
happened.
actually been here a while. He's been here for at least a month. He's very sweet. He was incredibly scared when I first met him. And he's very sweet. He's a good boy.
And all I used were the oils and some energy healing with him. Okay, so just frequency. So let me talk about physical and let me talk about behavioral, and then we'll end and I'll take some questions. So what do I do for mystery physical issues? Again, I'm not making any claims that I can't make, but my go-to when I'm like, I'm stumped, I don't know what's going on, give them Ningxia Red. Put it in their wet food, add some water to it, mix it in, they will eat it. Don't put it in their water bowl, put it in their food. This is my number 1 go-to. My number 2 go-to is the animal raindrop technique. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. When in doubt, raindrop. When in doubt, Ningxia Red. That's my go-to for physical. Now, I also recommend earthing, get their paws on the ground. Now, with my cats, I can put them on a harness, but Dobby doesn't want to go outside. So that's why I bring grounding crystals in, because grounding crystals that are dark is the equivalent of the earth, because they literally come from the earth. So you're bringing that grounding energy into your home. Okay. I also play solfeggio frequency music. So there are 9 solfeggio frequencies that all have a very specific energetic healing purpose. You can find them on YouTube. I literally stream them. I'm doing it right now downstairs. I stream it on my smart TV in my living room. My home all day long is filled with solfeggio frequency music. And the cat, that's why Rudy's not up here. He's down there enjoying the 639 hertz music that I have playing down there. Dr. Emoto proved that certain music is beneficial. These frequencies are beneficial. It'll change the energy in your home. And then pay attention when there are flare-ups, because you might be able to then go back and backtrack it to, we had a Schumann resonance spike, we had a solar flare. Oh, it was a full moon. Oh, I was really super stressed. Pay attention. That's really what I do, is I pay attention. What is happening around, knowing all the different frequencies that can influence. Okay, what do I do for mystery behavioral issues? Feelings kit. I use it like an emotional raindrop. Rudy and I did the feelings kit. It's 6 oils, smell them. The important thing is to smell them. You don't necessarily need to raindrop it on the body. I call it an emotional raindrop because you're just taking it in emotionally. Grounding crystals are very important. Earthing, again, Grounding is very important. The solfeggio frequency music is very important, and be very mindful of the stress and the chaos in the home. You may be used to it, but it just could be a lot for the animals in your home. All right. That was a lot of information. I have a lot of ways to connect with me. Some days I feel like I have too many ways for you to connect with me. So I'm going to look at the chat here. Let me look at the chat first before we unmute anybody. Hold on. I'm just trying to get the chat to show up here. All right, I'm going to stop the share. All right. Let's see. Going back, Kathy, you've heard there's been a threefold increase in pet cancer since the rollout of 5G. Interesting, isn't that? We now have 10G rollout. Oh, Nicole, when you walk your dog, you put your phone down. Yes, good for you. Good for you. Yeah, it's peaceful nature time. Stacy, you used to be busy all the time. Yep, you and me both. Yep, you have to pause, hold space. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, Susan, your cow held it against you when you took her to the vet clinic for surgery. Yeah, they have all the emotions that we do, and they have memory. Yeah, your pony held it against you when you had to treat her ears after skin cancer removal. They got over it, but yeah, they held it against you. Yeah, and there's, I mean, we don't need science to prove it, but it's you're not crazy when you say my cow got mad at me. You're not crazy. They're validating this. Kathy, why selenite? Selenite's very soothing, but it's high vibrational, so it's got that grounding, high vibrational energy that you hear me talk about all the time. I love selenite, especially with horses. Oh my gosh, you can just sweep their energy field and under their belly, and they're like, yeah, it feels great. That was the final crystal that had her drop in relaxation. Deb, the crystals I put in the four corners of my house are black tourmaline and chunks that are like the size of my palm. That's what I do. Oh, Kylie, your rescue kitten had central nervous system damage. Ningxia was helpful. Anything with blue tansy too. Yeah, like Valor and Peace and Calming. Yeah, that's awesome. That's so sweet that you have that rescue kitty. Oh, Karen, your dog knows when you're going to go watch a football game and goes and hides upstairs in the bedroom closet. Oh, they're super smart. They're super smart. They're super smart. Joanna, your mom just adopted a puppy. It was transported from Ohio to Arizona. Yeah, on your next visit, introduce him to Release and Valor. I always recommend let them pick the oil. The dog may not need Release, may not need Valor, may need Stress Away. So you've got to let them pick. Okay. Same thing with crystals, same thing with energy. They are in control. Okay. They are totally in control. All right. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And then if you have a question you want to ask verbally, you can do that and it won't be on the recording. So, so for everybody watching the recording, thank you for tuning in. And I hope this is very, very helpful. All right.